evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos greets his brother King of Bahrain on his country's 47th National Day. After 2 weeks of UN climate talks in Poland, a deal on the rules that govern the Paris Climate Accord appeared within the grasp. And British Foreign Secretary waving approval signal of Parliament that his country will leave European Union if it receives guarantees. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of greetings to His Majesty Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of Bahrain, on his country's 47th National Day. His Majesty the Sultan has sent a similar cable to His Excellency Nur Sultan Nazarbayev, President of Kazakhstan, on his country's National Day. United Nations Special Envoy Martin Griffiths called for the urgent creation of a strong monitoring mechanism in the war-ravaged Yemen, one day after fighting parties agreed to a ceasefire at a vital port. But even as the UN sought observers at Hodeidah, sporadic clashes broke out nearby, highlighting the extreme fragility of even this limited truce and the potential risk to personnel in the region. Yemen's warring factions accepted at the UN-brokered talks Thursday the ceasefire at a key gateway for the aid and food imports to a country where 14 million people stand on the brink of famine. Griffiths told the UN Security Council that allowing the UN the lead role in the ports is the first vital step. He said Yemen's warring parties told him they would welcome the monitoring and called for them to allow it within days. A deal on the rules that govern the Paris Climate Accord appeared within grasp today, as officials from almost 200 countries, including the Sultanate, worked to bridge remaining differences. After 2 weeks of United Nations climate talks in Poland, the 2015 Paris Agreement was a landmark moment in international diplomacy, bringing together governments with vastly different views to tackle the common threat of global warming. But while the accord set a headline target of keeping average global temperatures from rising by more than 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius, if possible, much of the fine print was left unfinished. The meeting in Poland's southern city was meant to finalize how countries report their emissions of greenhouse gases, a key factor in man-made climate change, and the efforts they're taking to reduce them. Poor countries also wanted assurances on financial support to help them cut emissions, adapt to inevitable changes such as sea level rises, and pay for damages that are already happened. Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt said today that the British Parliament could back Prime Minister Theresa May's deal if lawmakers receive assurances from the European Union, but warned that a no-deal Brexit was still on the table. May pulled a vote on her deal this week after acknowledging it would be heavily defeated over concerns about the divorce agreement's backstop, an insurance policy designed to avoid any hard land border for Ireland, but which critics say could bind Britain to the EU rules indefinitely. Following a summit in Brussels yesterday, May said it was possible that the EU could give further guarantees that the backstop would be temporary, although the bloc's other 27 leaders told her they would not renegotiate the treaty. The Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, Pakistan and China met today in Kabul to discuss trade, development and ways to end Afghanistan's 17-year war. The prickly relationship between Pakistan and Afghanistan dominated the talks, while all three countries agreeing that a peaceful end to the war would have economic and trade benefits for the entire region. Pakistan and Afghanistan have long accused each other of failing to combat the Taliban and other militant groups that operate along their border. China, which was hosted the Taliban leaders in an effort to bring the warring sides to the negotiating table, sees an end to the war as critical to its One Belt, One Road policy of expanding trade links across Asia. China is investing tens of billions of dollars in Pakistan, and the two have forged close economic ties. Afghanistan's foreign minister said his country also wanted to participate in the Chinese initiative. Still to come in our news bulletin. Omani architecture represents in Dahiri's fine art exhibition in the Wilaya of Ibra. Welcome back to the news from Sultanate of Oman Television. Oman Committee for Gynecology and Obstetrics launched the 6th International Conference aimed wide participation from inside and outside the Sultanate. The three-day conference included the participation of more than 300 medical and assistant medical cadres in the field of obstetrics and gynecology from various governorates of the Sultanate and specialists from outside the Sultanate. The conference included 16 work papers on various minor specializations. The conference aimed to exchange technical expertise among participating medical cadres, in addition to updating information in order to refine the provided medical services and facilitate medical cadres with modern techniques, aiming to develop their technical skills, besides discussing the latest in gynecology and obstetrics. In an endeavour from the Ministry of Health to raise health awareness among physicians and workers in the public and private hospitals in the Governorate of North Batna, a workshop on vaccination against seasonal influenza was organised in the Wilaya of Sohar. It highlighted the need for vaccination and prevention, especially with the advent of the winter season. The workshop stressed the importance of taking annual vaccination against this seasonal disease, which appears in the Sultanate in September and continues till the middle of May every year. The annual honouring ceremony for students was organised in the Wilaya of Sada in the Governorate of Dhofar. It aimed to encourage scientific innovation and artistic creativity among school students in the Wilaya. It was organised by the Council of Parents in the Wilaya of Sada. The honouring ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Khalid bin Halal Al Mawali, Chairman of the Shura Council. An exhibition was held for the works of the students. The ceremony also included the recitation of poetry and performance of some traditional arts by the students. At the end of the ceremony, the chief guest honoured students in teaching and administrative cadres in the schools of the Wilaya. Aggregated deposits held with conventional banks increased year on year by 2.5% to 19.3 billion Omani Riyals in September 2018. Government deposits with conventional banks increased by 7.8% to 5.4 billion Omani Riyals, while the public enterprises deposited increased by 7% to 1.2 billion Omani Riyals in September 2018. Private sector deposits accounted for 64.3% of total deposits with conventional banks in September 2018, remaining the same as a year ago at 12.4 billion Omani Riyals. The core capital and reserves of conventional banks stood at 4.4 billion Omani Riyals as at the end of September 2018, a rise of 5.9% over the previous year. The Sultanate's production of crude oil and condensates throughout November 2018 amounted to more than 30.03 million barrels, with a daily average of 1.138 million barrels. According to the monthly report issued by the Ministry of Oil and Gas, the total exported quantities of the Omani crude oil during November 2018 reached 22.75 million barrels, with a daily average of 758,219 barrels. Furthermore, the Asian market received the bulk of the Omani crude oil exports during November 2018. Despite the decrease in the Chinese imported volumes by 1.68% during the month compared to October 2018 quantities, China remains on the top list of the largest buyers of Omani exports, bringing the imported quantities to 91.64% during the month. Within its efforts to protect geographical indicators in the Sultanate by joining the Lisbon Agreement to record geographical indications internationally, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry received protect requests as per the national law represented in Omani Luban, Al Jabal Al Akhtar goat and cows in the south of the Sultanate. The ministry hoped to protect the Sultanate's food and crafts production and any other products which can be protected as geographical indicators in the coming period, aiming to prevent others from violating the rights of geographical indications outside the Sultanate. A fine arts exhibition was organised in the Wilaya of Ibra in the Governorate of North Sharqiya. It was held in the archaeological city of Al-Manzafar to shed light on the deep-rooted history of the village and its archaeological features. It aimed to highlight the role of the landmarks that embody the Omani architecture over ages. The exhibition included student works in the field of photography, drawing and calligraphy. Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over most of the governorates, with chances of low cloud and fog late at night and early morning over the coasts of the Arabian Sea. The winds will be southeasterly to south light to moderate, and seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos greets his brother, King of Bahrain, on his country's 47th National Day. After 2 weeks of UN climate talks in Poland, a deal on the rules that govern the Paris Climate Accord appeared within the grasp. And British Foreign Secretary waving approval signal of Parliament that his country will leave European Union if it receives guarantees. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.